All right, if you're gearing up for your GCSE Biology exam, you are in exactly the right place. Today, we're diving deep into a topic that is absolutely fundamental, photosynthesis. This is a big one from section 4.4.1 of the spec, so let's get stuck right in. So, have you ever looked at a huge tree, like a massive oak, and just thought, how? How does all of that, the wood, the leaves, the roots, come from one tiny little acorn? I mean, it doesn't eat anything, so where does all that mass come from? Well, the answer is basically real-life magic, and it's powered by the sun. It's called photosynthesis. Okay, to make this super simple for revision, I want you to think of a plant as a tiny solar-powered factory. It takes in some really basic raw materials, and then, using the energy it gets from sunlight, it actually manufactures its own food. This whole factory idea is going to be our guide today, so keep that picture in your head. Right. Every factory needs a recipe or a formula, and our plant factory is no different. And for your exam, knowing this recipe, the photosynthesis equation, is, believe me, completely non-negotiable. You've got to know it. Here it is, the word equation. It's as simple as it gets, but it's so important. On the left, you've got your inputs, the raw materials. And on the right, you've got your outputs, the final products. You absolutely must be able to write this from memory. Carbon dioxide plus water gives you glucose and oxygen. See, this table breaks down our factory's process perfectly. The plant pulls in carbon dioxide from the air around it and sucks up water through its roots. Those are the raw materials. Then it works its magic to produce glucose, which is a sugar, basically the plant's food, and oxygen, which it releases. A waste product for the plant, but, pretty essential for us. But what powers this whole operation? What gets the factory running? Well, the secret ingredient is light energy from the sun. And because the reaction takes in energy from its surroundings, we call it an endothermic reaction. That is a key term, a bit of jargon that examiners absolutely love to see. Endothermic. Now, for those of you aiming for the top grades, you're also going to need the balanced symbol equation. I know, it looks a bit more complicated, but it's telling the exact same story, just in the language of chemistry. 6 molecules of carbon dioxide plus 6 molecules of water produces 1 molecule of glucose and 6 molecules of oxygen. Get this one memorized to really push for those higher marks. So our factory is up and running, but how fast can it really go? Can it just go at top speed all the time? Well, no. Its rate of production is actually controlled by a few things in the environment, and we call these limiting factors. There are 4 main limiting factors you really need to get in your head. The first is light intensity. Then there's the concentration of carbon dioxide. After that, we have temperature. And finally, the amount of chlorophyll the plant has. That's the green stuff in the leaves that actually captures the sunlight. The best way to think about a limiting factor is to picture a bottleneck. Imagine a production line in a real factory. It doesn't matter how fast most of the machines are working, the entire line can only go as fast as its slowest part. Photosynthesis is exactly the same. Whichever factor is in the shortest supply is the one that holds everything else back. Let's look at a classic exam-style graph. This one is for light intensity. As you can see, as the light gets stronger, the rate of photosynthesis goes up and up. Makes sense. But then it flattens out. It plateaus. So why? Well, it's because something else has now become the bottleneck. Maybe it's the CO2 level or the temperature. At this point, adding more light won't make a blind bit of difference. And guess what? We see the exact same pattern with carbon dioxide. As you increase the CO2 concentration, the rate goes up, and then boom, it plateaus again. Once the plant has plenty of carbon dioxide, another factor, like maybe the light intensity this time, becomes the new bottleneck. Being able to explain why these graphs flatten out is a really key skill for your exam. Now, temperature is a little bit different. It's the odd one out. The rate increases as it gets warmer, up to a sweet spot, an optimum temperature. But if it gets too hot, the rate doesn't just plateau, it crashes. And this is because the enzymes, which are like the factory's tiny machines, they start to denature. That means they lose their shape and just stop working. The factory machinery literally breaks down. Okay, higher tier students, listen up, this is for you. You need to take this a step further. You'll need to be able to look at graphs that show how these factors interact with each other. For example, a graph might show 2 lines showing that the plateau for light is higher when the temperature is warmer. Your job is to look at the data and explain exactly which factor is the limiting one at any given point on that graph. So our little plant factory has been working hard making its main product, glucose. Awesome. But what happens to it now? It doesn't just sit there. The plant uses this amazing sugar in 5 really important ways.
This slide right here is pure revision gold. Okay, the 5 uses. Number 1, it's used straight away for respiration, giving the plant the energy it needs to live. 2, it's converted into insoluble starch and stored away, kind of like putting goods in the factory warehouse for later. 3, it's used to build cellulose, which makes strong cell walls. 4, it's turned into fats and oils, another way of storing energy, especially in seeds. And finally, number 5, it's combined with nitrate ions from the soil to make amino acids, which are the building blocks of proteins. You've got to know these 5 uses.
Okay, we've covered the equation, the limiting factors, and what happens to the glucose. We've got the details down. But let's just zoom out for a second. Why does this one chemical reaction happening inside a tiny leaf matter so much? This quote really just says it all, doesn't it? Photosynthesis isn't just about feeding the plant. It's about feeding, well, almost everything. It is the base of nearly every single food chain on the planet, and, oh yeah, it also produces the oxygen that we all need to breathe. Without these tiny plant factories, life as we know it just wouldn't exist.
All right, let's boil it all down. To wrap this up, here are the absolute must-know points for your exam. Number 1, photosynthesis is an endothermic reaction. It takes in energy. 2, you must know both the word and the balanced symbol equations. No excuses. 3, be able to explain those limiting factor graphs, especially why they level off. And 4, remember the 5 uses of glucose. If you can nail these 4 things, you are going to be in fantastic shape for any question on this topic.
And I'll leave you with this last little bit of food for thought. We've been focused on the science, the mechanics of how a plant keeps itself alive. But when you realize that this single process is the foundation for our entire existence, well, it raises a much bigger question, doesn't it? If plants are what make all this life possible, what's our responsibility to protect them? Something to think about. Good luck with the revision.